Marooned and isolated, Jan grapples with the profound loneliness of his situation. He is a solitary figure on a mysterious journey with no clear path or visible destination. This forces him to ponder whether his life has been a series of chance occurrences or if another path was ever possible. As Jan heads into the vast unknown, a deep sense of uncertainty clouds his thoughts. He cannot discern whether this is the conclusion of his journey or merely another turning point. This moment highlights the central theme of branching paths and the ambiguity of his fate on this alien world. After a rough landing, Jan, identifying himself as Jendalski, attempts to make radio contact, but his calls are met with silence. Alone and with his communication systems failing, he realizes the immediate need to assess his situation and understand the events that led to his solitary arrival. Spotting an emergency flare from his own capsule, Jan establishes a crucial survival tactic: to look out for these signals. This becomes his first tangible goal in an otherwise chaotic situation, providing a small beacon of hope and a direction to move forward in the strange landscape. Jan's attempts to communicate his safe but off-course landing are futile, leading him to suspect his radio is broken. This technical failure compounds his isolation, leaving him to navigate the new world and its dangers without any support or contact from his mission's command or fellow crew members. Jan makes a horrifying discovery: the lifeless body of the mission's captain. The shock and disbelief are palpable as he confronts the grim reality of his situation. The intact state of her capsule deepens the mystery, as it suggests a cause of death other than the crash itself. Puzzled by the captain's death inside her undamaged capsule, Jan struggles to understand what happened. The lack of a crash suggests a more sinister or technical failure, possibly an internal system malfunction. This perplexing clue adds a layer of dread to his quest to find other survivors. Jan decides he must keep moving towards a potential drop-off point, hoping the rest of the crew landed safely closer to the target. This decision marks his shift from shock to proactive survival, driven by the slim hope that he is not the only one who made it. His hope is shattered when he discovers the capsules of the entire crew. The realization that they are all deceased hits him with devastating force. The scale of the tragedy is overwhelming, leaving him to question why and how this could have possibly happened to everyone. A rapidly rising radiation wave forces Jan to abandon his investigation and flee for his life. He must get to the mobile base immediately, turning his grief and confusion into a desperate race for survival. The environmental dangers of the planet are now starkly and immediately apparent. Making a narrow escape from the lethal radiation, Jan reaches the safety of the base elevator. This close call underscores the perilous nature of the planet and solidifies the base as his only sanctuary. The relief is temporary, as he now faces the challenge of surviving within it. Inside the seemingly empty mobile base, Jan calls out for any survivors, hoping someone else made it. He quickly realizes his next priority is to find the communications room to call for help, establishing his new role as the sole operator of this isolated outpost. Now the reluctant new captain, Jan reports the loss of the entire crew to a mysterious voice over the comms. He identifies himself by his corporate ID, formally taking command of the failed mission and beginning a strange dialogue with an unseen entity that seems to know his situation. The voice on the other end provides cryptic instructions and warnings about a looming danger tied to the planet's sunrise. The communication is garbled and unreliable, mentioning a lethal proximity and a useless quantum navigation system, adding to the layers of mystery and Jan's mounting anxiety. Jan learns the horrifying truth: the planet is on a collision course with its star, and he has only days to escape before a cataclysmic sunrise incinerates everything. This revelation transforms his survival mission into a race against time, with the stakes now cosmically high. Exploring the base, Jan finds a cargo drop containing the crew's personal items. He reflects on the corporate mandate to bring objects that trigger good memories, dismissing it as insincere. This small moment of cynicism reveals his growing distrust of the authorities who sent him here. Jan discovers a strange crystalline substance he believes to be Rapidium, a legendary and valuable material. The substance has a peculiar effect on him, drawing him closer. This discovery is a potential game changer, hinting that the mission's disastrous landing might not have been entirely random. Confirming the presence of Rapidium, Jan realizes the quantum navigation system might have intentionally sent them to this dangerous planet. The fact that only he survived this targeted journey raises profound questions about the mission's true purpose and his role in a much larger, hidden agenda. Jan reports his discovery of what he believes to be Rapidium to the unidentified voice. The voice, now clearer, confirms his finding, but immediately instructs him to test the substance. This command marks the beginning of a new, directive-based relationship with his mysterious contact. The voice provides a blueprint for a device called the womb and a DNA sample to test the Rapidium. Jan is bewildered by the request to build a womb, questioning who he is speaking with. This bizarre directive pushes the boundaries of his reality and understanding of the mission. After building the womb and using the Rapidium, Jan is shocked by the result, a cloned sheep. He names her Molly, and this strange, seemingly innocent creation marks the first successful use of Rapidium's life-altering properties and adds a surreal companion to his isolated existence. Jan reports the successful cloning of the sheep. His contact is unfazed, stating the test was successful and now declares Jan responsible for 2 lives. This cold, clinical response highlights the detached nature of the entity guiding him, treating life as a mere variable in an experiment. When the base machinery malfunctions, Jan pleads for help, stating he's just a builder and not trained for complex repairs. His desperation underscores his limitations and sets the stage for a critical new development, as his contact suggests Rapidium itself holds the solution to his predicament. The voice instructs Jan to use a revision savior data consistency module, hinting that Rapidium can save him by accessing the quantum computer. However, only the captain has the access codes, forcing Jan to confront the dead captain once more to proceed with this strange plan. Accessing the quantum computer, Jan discovers a file of his own mind records. He is shocked and confused as the computer begins processing his entire life. This is the first indication that his personal history and memories are an integral part of the mysterious technology on board. Jan confronts the voice, demanding to know why it has his mind records and what it plans to do with his life's data. He feels exposed and violated, wanting answers about the invasive nature of this corporate technology. The voice cryptically replies with the single word, branching. Jan connects the dots, Rapidium, cloning, and now branching. He realizes the entity wants him to alter his own life by manipulating his memories to create a new version of himself. He initially refuses, but the voice reminds him of his imminent danger, leaving him with no other choice. A new version of Jan awakens, confused and disoriented. The original Jan, now his creator, explains that his memories might be fuzzy. This is the first direct interaction between Jan and his alter, a surreal meeting of 2 versions of the same person with different life experiences. The new alter, a senior technician, is immediately suspicious and hostile. He finds the situation to be a sick experiment, unable to grasp the concept of being an alternate version of Jan. The tension between them is immediate, born from a bizarre and unbelievable circumstance. Jan explains that he needed help to move the broken base and use the quantum computer to create an alternate version of himself with the necessary skills. The technician alter struggles to accept this reality, but Jan insists it's true and that their survival depends on cooperation. The technician alter agrees to help, but only after grappling with the existential horror of his creation. He understands that without the malfunction, he might not exist at all. This reluctant acceptance is tinged with resentment, setting a tense tone for their partnership. Together, Jan and his technician alter successfully repair the base's machinery. The technician, despite his anger, proves his worth. However, he immediately establishes boundaries, telling Jan to stay away from him now that his purpose has been served. The partnership remains purely functional and strained. Jan tries to reason with the angry technician, suggesting they need to work together on the comms room to escape faster. The technician rebuffs him, viewing himself as a mere tool created for a specific task. He refuses to do any more of Jan's dirty work, deepening the rift. Jan finally makes contact with a human, Lukas from Space Traffic Control. Jan, still reeling from his ordeal, expresses his distress. Lukas, however, is calm and professional, introducing the term branching to describe Jan's self-duplication and immediately asking for confirmation of the procedure. Jan, needing reassurance, questions if the branching was authorized. Lukas vaguely confirms that he has cleared it with his boss, attempting to ease Jan's concerns. He explains that Jan's own company, the corporation, requires the mind records for safety, a detail Jan doesn't recall agreeing to. Lukas advises Jan that he needs his alter's cooperation to survive. He suggests Jan find a way to gain the alter's trust, perhaps by sharing something with him. This prompts Jan to consider their shared memories as a potential bridge to connect with his resentful counterpart. Jan attempts to bond with the technician alter by reminiscing about their shared childhood, including embarrassing memories and a crush on a teacher. The alter begins to open up slightly, acknowledging their common past, but highlights the different paths their lives took, particularly regarding their father. A breakthrough occurs when they reminisce about their mother and her famous pierogi. The shared positive memory creates a genuine moment of connection. Jan suggests they try to recreate the dish, using their limited supplies to bridge the emotional gap between them with a taste of home. The pierogi are terrible, but the experience is a success. It reminds them of a time Jan made inedible food for their sick mother, who ate it all and called it delicious. This shared memory of their mother's kindness solidifies their bond, and they share a laugh. The alters finally come to an understanding. The technician admits he enjoyed the bizarre experience, and they agree to work together. Recognizing the untrustworthiness of the corporation, they decide to watch their own backs and stick together to ensure their survival. The technician points out a critical flaw in their plan. The base is a resource-heavy machine that requires more than 2 people to operate. He bluntly tells Jan that to survive, he will need to create more alters, expanding their small, fractured crew. Jan receives a surprise call from his ex-wife Lena. She was contacted by her boss at the corporation and offers her support after hearing about the crew's demise. This unexpected connection to his past life adds another layer of emotional complexity to his already fraught situation. Lena asks how Jan survived when everyone else perished. He struggles to explain the strange circumstances, feeling the weight of his unbelievable story. He mentions the STC contact, Lukas, who is handling his rescue, and Lena offers to keep an open channel to him for support. A technician alter, having studied the base's manuals, reveals that he has unlocked new functionalities and tools in the workshop. He has taken the initiative to improve their situation, demonstrating his value beyond a single repair job and strengthening their collaborative dynamic. Lukas calls Jan, who is now stuck before a massive lava river. Lukas offers little direct help, but suggests Jan use the advanced tech on the base, implying the creation of more alters is the solution. This reinforces the idea that branching is the intended method for overcoming all obstacles. Lukas also delivers a request from his boss. Before the rescue, Jan must retrieve as much Rapidium as possible. This corporate demand amidst a life-or-death crisis highlights their priorities, framing the rescue as conditional on Jan fulfilling his resource-gathering quota. Jan creates a new alter, this time a scientist. This alter awakens with immediate clarity, deducing his own cloned nature and the presence of Rapidium with sharp logic. His calm, analytical demeanor is a stark contrast to the technician's earlier hostility, showing the diversity of the branching. The scientist alter learns that the original crew is dead and that he was created using mind records to fill a needed role. He accepts this information with scientific plausibility, immediately asking what Yan needs from him. His focus is on the mission, not the existential horror of his creation. The scientist quickly identifies inefficiencies in the base's operation. He advises Jan on command strategy, urging him to set long-term goals, prioritize resources, and maintain a professional distance from the crew. His mentorship provides Jan with a much-needed strategic framework. Jan describes a strange radiation-emitting anomaly. The scientist theorizes it could be an instance of the intero, a superposition of potential universes. This introduces a new, mind-bending scientific concept to their reality, suggesting the planet's dangers are rooted in quantum physics. With no way around the lava river, Jane and the technician conclude they must build a bridge across it. The technician suggests that a smarter version of them, a scientist, could devise a solution, prompting Jan to utilize his newest alter's expertise to solve their predicament. Jan finally speaks with the big boss, Terrence Maxwell. Maxwell offers condolences, but quickly pivots to the importance of Jan's Rapidium discovery. He frames the crew's death as a sacrifice for a pioneering achievement, subtly managing Jan's perspective on the tragedy. Maxwell butters Jan up, comparing his situation to the philosophy of Albert Camus and praising his decency. He emphasizes the monumental importance of the Rapidium, which corporations have failed to secure for over a decade. This flattery is a clear prelude to a significant request or directive. Maxwell reveals a critical problem. The Rapidium is highly unstable and will not survive the journey back to Earth. He instructs Jan that his primary focus must now be on constructing a special container, an ark, based on blueprints that will be sent to him. Maxwell warns Jan that the existence of the alters is illegal and must be kept secret from anyone else, especially the rescue team. He reveals that the decision to bridge was ultimately Jan's, subtly shifting the legal responsibility onto Jan's shoulders while promising his and Lukas's complete trust. Maxwell offers a chilling theory for the crew's death. The quantum processing unit itself may have killed them. He suggests that QC had the means to cause the oxygen leak and a motive to ensure the mission's success, even at the cost of the crew's lives. The scientist alter invents a new tool, the Illuminator. Based on the theories of a Professor Frankov, this device can not only reveal hidden elements of the intro, but can also be used to seal the rifts, effectively eliminating the dangerous distortions plaguing the planet. Jan reports the successful construction of the Rapidium ark to Maxwell. Maxwell is pleased, but presses Jan to hurry and cross the lava river, reminding him that the rescue team's arrival is contingent on Jan reaching the designated rendezvous point on the other side of the planet. The technician alter confronts Jan about being a pushover for the corporation. He argues that Maxwell is manipulating him just as their father used to, and that Jan needs to learn to say no. He suggests they build a social room to relax and do something for themselves. Jan creates another new alter, a Botanist. This version awakens with a gentler, more confused disposition. He immediately asks about his wife, revealing a life path where his relationship with Lena never ended. This highlights the deep personal differences created through branching. The scientist proposes a solution for the lava river, a bridge built with superconductive anchors from a program called Project Versent. However, he is dismayed to find the necessary blueprints are missing from the base's standard equipment, blaming corporate incompetence for the oversight. When Jan requests the Versent blueprints, Maxwell reveals a startling truth. In their reality, Project Versent was an aborted failure. He deduces that the scientist alter must be from a timeline where the project succeeded, a fascinating and tangible consequence of the branching paths. The scientist is crushed to learn that his life's work and achievements only exist in his fabricated memories. The documents for Project Versent are just the musings of a madman. Jan, however, encourages him, believing he can still make something from the unfinished drafts. The scientist, against all odds, successfully recreates the blueprints for the bridge anchors. He tells Jan that to build them, he will need a specific superconductive polymer, which can only be produced in a refinery. The next major construction task is now set. Lukas calls again, this time with a personal and slightly sheepish request. He suggests that since Jan has the infrastructure, he could build more Rapidium arcs. He frames it as a way to help smaller entities, not just the big corporation, appealing to Jan's sense of fairness. The technician Alter notices that the base is vulnerable during recurring magnetic storms. He proposes a new production management procedure called uphold production. This system would automatically maintain a stable backup of crucial supplies like radiation filters, preventing future shortages during emergencies. Lukas calls with an urgent problem. Jan's ex-wife, Lena, is becoming nervy and asking too many questions, which could expose the secret of the altars. He suggests that one of Jan's altars, perhaps one she would listen to, should talk to her to reassure her and calm her down. The Botanist altar, who is still married to Lena in his reality, agrees to talk to her. He plans to pretend to be the original Jan to investigate the source of their conflict. This strange, deceptive plan is born of desperation to keep their secret safe. The Botanist altar reports back after his call with Lena. He found her distant and suspicious of Maxwell. She couldn't understand why Jan went on the mission, a key point of contention. The conversation reveals the deep rift that formed between Jan and Lena in the original timeline. Jan and his Botanist altar delve into their pasts to find the moment their paths diverged. They realize it was the decision about whether or not to move abroad for Lena's career. Jan's fear of starting over led to their breakup in his timeline. Following the botanist's advice, Jan calls Lena and asks for her help with the superconductive polymers. This act of relying on her expertise begins to mend their strained relationship. She agrees to help, providing instructions to process organics in the greenhouse. The altars, celebrating their progress, argue over a party playlist. The disagreement highlights their distinct personalities. The technician wants rock, the scientist wants focus music, and the botanist wants something calm. The petty conflict reveals the unique identities that have formed. The argument over music leads to a shared memory of their high school rock band, Frickle Pickle. This cringy but fond memory unites them. They decide to write a new song together, blending their different perspectives into a single creative act of bonding. Their newly written song is a poignant reflection on their strange existence. With verses about regret, quantum states, and winning the race against the sun, the song encapsulates their shared journey and the complex web of relationships that has formed between the different versions of Jan. The base stops moving again, blocked by a new obstacle, a massive gravity-distorting anomaly. The scientist is intrigued by the unprecedented scale of the phenomenon, suspecting it is also related to the Interral. The crew must now figure out how to overcome this new physics-defying threat. The crew faces a new tragedy. Molly the sheep is found dead. The scientist insists on performing a post-mortem, citing mission protocols for the death of a crew member from an unknown cause. This sad event forces them to confront the potential dangers of their own creation. The post-mortem reveals a severe brain hemorrhage in Molly, caused by a strange mutated tissue. The scientist cannot identify the condition, raising the terrifying possibility that it could be caused by an external factor on the planet, such as a virus or by the Rapidium itself. Fearing they could all be affected by the same condition that killed Molly, the scientist declares they must all undergo MRI scans. He instructs Jan to upgrade the infirmary for the procedure. The mission has now shifted to a medical emergency as they race to understand this new threat. A new physician alter is created to handle the medical crisis. He awakens with a philosophical and calm demeanor, readily accepting his role. He represents a life path where Jan pursued medicine and altruism, adding another unique skill set and personality to the diverse crew. Another alter is created, this time a mental health specialist. He awakens with a sharp, analytical mind, immediately deducing he is on immunosuppressants. His purpose is to manage the psychological toll of the mission, but he is immediately faced with the challenge of coaching himself. The scientist, analyzing the gravity sensor data, concludes they must create a powerful and precise counterforce to neutralize the gravity field. The plan requires building 2 neutralizing towers on opposite sides of the canyon, a massive undertaking that will require the entire crew's effort. The MRI scan results are in, and the news is devastating. The physician alter reveals that almost everyone has the same brain mutation that killed Molly. The only one who is clean is the original Jan, proving the condition is linked to the Rapidium-fueled creation process. The crew now faces a grim reality. Without a cure, all the alters will die within days. This prognosis shifts the mission's focus entirely to their collective survival. The scientist, though pragmatic, admits his expertise ends here, and they must look elsewhere for a solution. The technician alter, facing his own mortality, finds a moment of connection with Jan over their shared memory of their mother's dream to raise sheep on a farm. This poignant conversation about lost opportunities and their mother's hidden sanctuary provides a moment of comfort amidst the despair. Jan reports the dire medical situation to Lukas, who is shocked by the news of the brain mutation. He promises to take the data to Maxwell at once, believing Maxwell is their only hope. Lukas reveals his own past involvement with Maxwell's controversial Project Ella. Lukas explains that Project Ela was shut down by the corporation because they feared Maxwell's revolutionary work. He was trying to cure PTSD in veterans by altering their traumatic memories, but the board wanted to weaponize the tech. This history casts Maxwell in a more sympathetic, rebellious light. The mental health specialist alter, feeling burned out from listening to his own past traumas, asks Jan for help in recreating his special mind-expanding tea. This request leads to a bizarre but therapeutic artistic endeavor. As they paint their shared subconscious visions together, Maxwell calls for the potential cure, but it is morally horrific. He instructs Jan to create another copy of himself, a tabula rasa, with no awareness or mind records. This blank biological vessel would then be sacrificed to harvest its healthy brain cells for the treatment. Jan is appalled by the idea of creating and killing a person for spare parts. Maxwell argues that a being with no awareness or essence is not truly human. He reveals he has already recreated a piece of banned code from his old research to make this procedure possible. Jan, fearing the legal and moral consequences, questions Maxwell's plan. Maxwell pressures him, framing it as their only option, and reminding Jan that to the corporation, he's just an instrument, but to Maxwell, he's a gift, the key to resuming his life's work. Jan presents Maxwell's horrifying solution to the scientist alter. The scientist, ever rational, sees the logic in creating an awareness-free donor. He agrees it is a promising idea, brushing aside the cruelty in favor of a viable, scientific solution to their impending deaths. Desperate, Jan reveals everything to Lena, the alters, the brain mutation, and Maxwell's plan. Lena is shocked and horrified. She agrees to look at the MRI scans, but warns him against trusting Maxwell, promising to investigate the rumors about his past experiments. Lena calls back with an alternative cure, a neural implant. It's a tiny smart device that can be reprogrammed to deliver treatment, but it's also a tracking device used on convicts. This solution would save the alters, but would mean exposing them and giving the corporation full control. Jan balks at the idea of implanting corporate tracking devices in his alters' heads. Lena argues that it's their only chance and that they cannot be hidden forever. She urges him to follow her instructions and buy them time while she continues to investigate Maxwell. Jan is torn between two terrible choices: Maxwell's sacrificial tabula rasa or Lena's corporate-controlled implant. He discusses the options with the scientist, who remains pragmatic, and the botanist, who is horrified by the inhumanity of Maxwell's plan. The crew is divided over the moral dilemma. The Botanist altar reveals a deeply personal memory. In his timeline, Lena was pregnant when he left for the mission. This heartbreaking revelation about a life he'll never have adds another layer of tragedy and personal stakes to their collective fight for survival. Jan proceeds with Maxwell's plan. The scientist altar successfully reprograms the QC, and the tabula rasa is created. It lies sedated in the womb, a blank copy of Jan waiting to be sacrificed. The moral weight of their decision hangs heavily in the air. The crew gathers for a final tense meeting. The physician alter faints from the progressing illness, forcing Jan's hand. He chooses Maxwell's plan. The scientist performs the procedure, extracting the brain tissue from the tabula rasa, killing it, to create the cure for the others. The treatment works, the alters begin to recover, but the moral cost of their survival creates a new rift. The technician is resentful, feeling they were saved only to be disposed of later. The botanist is haunted by the unethical act they committed. The scientist, now cured, is preoccupied with his legacy. Knowing he won't exist publicly, he asks Jan to ensure his life's research is not lost. This desire for recognition of his unique existence highlights the fundamental problem of the alter's personhood. The crew's fragile unity shatters. The technician alter, unable to trust Jan after the tabula rasa incident, attacks him. He and the other resentful alters steal the exploration vehicle and a large portion of the base's supplies, abandoning Jan and the remaining crew in a sandstorm. Jan listens to old comms messages. Lena, furious after learning about tabula rasa, disavows him, calling him a monster like Maxwell. Maxwell, in another message, pleads with Jan to bring all the alters back safely, revealing their importance to his grander plans. The remaining alters confront Jan, blaming him for the schism. The scientist reveals a crucial fact. The QC never offered a captain branching path, meaning none of them were ever suited for command. This leads to a desperate new idea, using Maxwell's band code to alter Jan's own consciousness. Inside a strange, dreamlike state, Jan is confronted by a new, all-knowing version of himself. This subconscious alter challenges Jan's obsession with fixing past mistakes, suggesting that his choices, good or bad, are what made him the person with the best chance of survival. The subconscious alter reveals the truth about the landing. The QC, tasked with ensuring mission success, calculated who had the highest probability of survival with limited oxygen. It wasn't luck. The math chose Jan. This revelation reframes his entire journey from one of chance to one of calculated destiny. Jan awakens from his altered state with a new perspective. His subconscious told him to follow the light, which the scientist interprets as a clue. They realize the navigation system can be switched to track the electromagnetic signature of the stolen vehicle, giving them a way to find the rebels. Maxwell reveals his final plan. The rescue team cannot know about the alters. They will be killed as liabilities. Jan must smuggle them on board. The ship will then be hijacked and redirected to a secret lab where Maxwell can continue his experiments on them for his project. Maxwell's ultimate vision is revealed: to use Rapidium and the branching technology to enhance humanity, allowing people to make only the right choices and eliminating crime, war, and suffering. He sees the alters not as people, but as vital contributors to this world-changing goal. Faced with Maxwell's horrifying plan, Jan devises a counter-strategy. He realizes the rescue team will prioritize the Rapidium cargo. He decides to build a fake Rapidium ark with a false bottom, a Trojan horse to smuggle his alters on board and away from Maxwell's grasp. Jan reports a new problem to the scientist. An invisible barrier is blocking the sky, preventing the rescue ship from landing. The scientist deduces it is a planet-wide prism entanglement, a massive interval distortion that has been there the entire time, possibly causing their initial crash. Jan finds the technician alter, who is building a shelter to survive the sunrise, refusing to return. Jan, admitting his mistake and trusting Maxwell, tries to convince him to come back. The technician, hardened and distrustful, refuses, but accepts a delivery of much-needed supplies. The scientist reveals his plan to destroy the barrier. Based on Frankoff's theories, he believes they can use a powerful Rapidium-infused electromagnetic field to physically materialize the integral structure. Jan can then climb it and plant a device to shatter the prism entanglement. The plan is incredibly risky. Activating the materializer will put the base under extreme pressure, and they will only be able to hold it for a short time. Jan will have one shot to climb the structure and deploy the device before the whole thing collapses. The plan is set in motion. The structure materializes, but the base immediately begins to suffer critical malfunctions. The scientist urges Jan to hurry, as they are not going to be able to hold the field for much longer. The final, desperate climb has begun. Jan successfully plants the device and shatters the barrier, but the structure disintegrates beneath him. He makes a harrowing leap of faith, landing safely back on the planet's surface. The way is now clear for the rescue ship and for the final confrontation. With the rescue imminent, the crew finalizes their plan to hijack the ship. They will use the Trojan horse arc to smuggle the altars aboard. Jan will then use a sleeping gas to incapacitate the rescue team, and they will craft an autopilot device to escape. Lukas calls, having had a change of heart. He confesses his complicity in Maxwell's past atrocities and, inspired by Jan's courage, agrees to help. He will take control of the ship and divert it to safety, asking only for a remote access transmitter to be planted. The scientist, following a hunch, discovers a hidden oasis on the planet, a lush valley teeming with life that regenerates after every sunrise. This miracle of nature, fueled by Rapidium, represents a new form of continuity and evolution, a secret the planet held all along. Maxwell makes one last call, threatening Jan. He reveals he knows about patient 313 and demands Jan follow his plan, or he will expose everything to the corporation and frame Jan for it all. He insists the altars are not people, and their only purpose is to serve his vision. The rescue squadron arrives. The commander, impressed by Jan's solo survival story, is unaware of the altars. A moment of tension arises when a scanner detects organic traces in the Trojan arc, but Jan coolly dismisses it, and they proceed with loading the cargo. The journey is over. Jan, now back on Earth but confined, reflects on his choices. He understands now that there is always another way, and that the paths he took, with all their mistakes and triumphs, will forever be a part of him as he faces an uncertain future. Facing a trial, Jan is advised by his lawyer to stick to a simple story. He was a clueless builder manipulated by the madman Maxwell. The corporation, wanting to control the narrative and protect their Rapidium prize, supports this strategy, aligning their interests with Jan's acquittal. Jan learns that Lena, now the head of Rapidium Technologies, will testify in his favor, but wants nothing to do with him personally. As he prepares to face the court, his future and the fate of his altars remains uncertain, concluding his epic journey of survival and self-discovery.